He may be as they say, you still got some free roast to the beat and walk.
Mr. Dawes, you ready? I'll now call the February meeting of the Pascagoula-Gautier School Board of Trustees to order. If you'll join me in standing, we're going to have a presentation of the colors, then prayer by Mr. Johnson, and the pledge by Ms. Wilson. Ms. Rubinette, please make note that all 5 board members are present. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Well, first I better ask Mr. Adolphich, are there any additions to the agenda?
There'll be one quick addition in the opening items section. I wanted to share with you an award the district has won and show you our latest recruitment video that was created by WLX.
Any board member have anything they'd like to add? Did you not say you had something?
I think the, yeah, if we could add a discussion item, or I'll tell you what, an action item around the Performing Arts Center, please.
Okay. You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. We have a motion by Ms. Wilson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Irving. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Adolphich, item, next item is 1D.
Okay. All right, so this is School Board Appreciation Week, and we have a certificate here that Debbie's going to hand to each of our board members from MSBA. If you don't mind, guys, if you don't mind standing up for a minute, we have a proclamation. We're going to read on your behalf from the Office of the Governor. Whereas children are the heart of Mississippi's future and the public schools play a major role in their development as productive citizens and savvy leaders, and whereas Mississippi's public schools are challenged to prepare all children to compete effectively in global, ever-evolving digital society, and whereas the effective leadership of school board members and school administrators working together with the community is imperative in stimulating a climate for high student achievement, and whereas local school board members have a continuing role in facilitating community and school collaboration in defining the vision for public education in each community, and whereas local school board members are ultimately responsible for ensuring that every available resource is identified and applied in maximizing student academic achievement, and whereas local school board have continually demonstrated their loyalty and commitment to high-performing schools, and whereas local school board members have consistently gone above and beyond annual state-mandated training requirements to seek knowledge, to refine their skills as policy makers accountable to the schools and communities. Now therefore, I, Tate Reeves, Governor of the State of Mississippi, do hereby proclaim week of February 9th through 15th, 2020, School Board Member Recognition Week. So if y'all would please help me have a round of applause. You got all your goodies from all the schools that they brought in today.
Well, I'd like to make a comment on that. You know, each year, all of the schools, they treat us better than we deserve. You know, all the principals, teachers, these are the people who are in the trenches every day and really do the hard work. And I just want to let it be known that I appreciate everything that all the schools do for us. And like I say, I just feel like we're overappreciated. So that's fine. Anybody other member have anything to say?
I agree. I second that.
Okay, the next item is 1E, election of school board officers. According to policy BBAA, it says that the senior member in his or her term is usually elected the president. And it does not specifically say anything about secretary, but it's been in the past that the next member who has the seniority a little bit less than we'll say the senior member, then they are usually elected secretary. So, do we have a motion for election of president?
I move that Ms. Wilson serve as president for the next year on the Pascagoula-Gautier School Board.
You've heard the motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second. Motion by Mr. Johnson to elect Ms. Wilson as board president, seconded by Mr. Irving. Any discussion on the item? Well, we need to really go with the, before we vote on this, I guess we should have made the motion to go with, we have to have the motion for secretary as well.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Matthew Johnson secretary.
Okay, you've heard the motion by Ms. Wilson to appoint Matthew Johnson as secretary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Taylor McNeil.
Yeah, we have a motion on the table.
Right, we have a motion on the table, and I guess we should have acted on it. I guess we should have added another item there.
Amendment.
Or, no, if
You either have to do two motions,
Right.
or you have to have the same person moving and seconding.
What,
We
I
can
would
just vote
think
on them
that,
both.
huh?
We can just vote on them both.
Yes.
I'm fine with both on one.
We've got Johnson moved and Irving seconded them.
Okay. But we need an amendment to that motion, though.
I think it, because I didn't want to, and understanding where you were going,
I know.
I didn't want to make a motion to
For
appoint
yourself.
myself. And she'd be amending a motion for herself, so I
Yeah.
think to save everybody a lot of confusion.
Right.
A good name of parliamentary procedure, we vote on this one and make a second one.
That's fine with me. Okay, so let's vote on the original motion for election of board president.
Here, here.
We had a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Now, how you gonna go ahead and add something?
I am.
Okay. Tell us when you got it now.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, let me refresh, everybody refresh so we can vote.
It's not going to be an item. You're not going to see it. You don't have to refresh.
Oh, okay, okay, well, already done it.
You'll see it when you get ready to vote for it.
Okay. Okay, we had the election for president. All right. We've had a motion and a second to elect Ms. Tracy Wilson Jackson Wilson to the board secretary.
Matthew.
I thought, oh, that's right, because he motioned that. You're correct. When didn't we have?
I made a motion for Matthew and Taylor seconded.
Okay. So, and then now, I thought we did the secretary too, if I'm not mistaken.
We did a
That's
second, so
the
we're
second.
gonna do this. We did.
We did two separate
Okay,
sessions.
so we're just gonna vote all at one time?
No, this is the second one. You're ready now for the
Okay.
second.
Oh,
It is up there, but you should be able to see it.
okay. Okay, I've got that.
There it is.
We need a vote.
Right, we had, okay, a motion to approve.
I move.
Okay, motion to approve Mr. Johnson as board secretary, motion by Ms. Wilson,
Second.
second by Mr. McNeil. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. That's hard. Well, it wasn't on my list. I didn't have my list. Throw me a curveball, was not on my list. Okay, school improvement presentation, Dr. Stuart Smurthwaite. I think he has a short one for us tonight.
Well, I told y'all it was going to be about 30, 40 minutes tonight, so.
Bring it on, brother.
If you will, start us on page 1, please, Mr. Swift. Of course, I want to say thank you on this School Board Appreciation Week for all you do for us. And we appreciate you every week, not just this week, but thank you for all you do. So taking a look at, this is the first page of the report. In the very top left, I just want to be real clear. This is where we want to be when our state testing results come in that we take in April and May. And so I'm going to talk about, so you see our goals where we want to be. But these numbers that we're gonna talk about really in this bottom left quadrant, the second benchmark assessment, those numbers aren't gonna exactly transfer over because this is, our benchmark is where they take iReady. And so they do that 3 times a year. And so we can see where we've gone from our first benchmark to our second benchmark, and we'll take the third benchmark later on in the school year. So looking at our second benchmark, you can see we started out at 24% proficient in reading at the first time, and then we're at 40% now. So we've had some good growth in reading. Math started at 27%, now we're at 45% proficient. So looking good, some great growth there in proficiency, hoping to see even more by the end of the school year, but we're pleased with that so far. So growth of all, those are the students that have already met their iReady growth target for the school year. So 58% of our students have already met their growth target. That's looking good. 37% in math have met their growth target already. So we still got some time there till the end of the year. And then for the growth of the bottom 25%, what I've done since we're in school improvement for our students with disabilities, I pulled the numbers out of a special group of just our students with disabilities so you can see how they're performing. And so 56% of our students with disabilities have already made their growth goal for reading this school year, and 33% have already made their goal in math. So we're making some good growth there. Not exactly where we want to be, but hopefully we're really hustling, especially this time of year, hustling to get these students ready for this test. Not that that's our be-all, end-all, but we want to make sure our students are performing commensurate with their ability. So if you go to the next page, please. So looking at our enrollment, our numbers for January, we're 585. ADA is looking good for our students. Average daily attendance, we're over 95%. Chronic absences, I think that's a pretty decent number. Of course, we want that as close to 0 as possible, but we're working hard to keep our students in school. I've been to houses, knocking on doors, looking for kids. If they're tardy, I'm going out to the house looking for them. We're trying to make sure our students are in school. Teacher attendance rate, 94.9% for the month of January, so right there with our 95% goal. Our discipline referrals, we had 90 in the month of January with a average of 5.3 per day, so a little up from December, but not too shabby coming in off a holiday. We're doing pretty well so far. And if you go to page 3, Mr. Swift, the last page there, I know there were some questions about what exactly are we doing to get out of this school improvement. And so you'll see, y'all know how to read. I'm not going to read it to you, but here's how we're trying to get out of it. But we spend our money on getting 2 extra assistants to work small groups with our special education students. So that's our evidence-based practice, is we've got some extra personnel working directly and specifically with our students with disabilities to make sure they're closing those gaps, making their growth, and that's on a daily basis. So we're working hard to get those gaps closed, get our students, not just our students with disabilities up, but all of them. And so I think we're hopefully going to see some good success on our state test scores this year. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer any.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Smurthwaite, or Dr. Smurthwaite, excuse me?
I appreciate that, Mr. Bax.
I've got a comment and then a general question,
Yes,
not
sir.
necessarily for you, but for our entire administration. First, congratulations on getting your doctorate. I don't know if we officially congratulate
Appreciate
you,
that.
but we appreciate you furthering your education and going the full distance and obtaining that. My other question, generally for the administration, is what do we do and/or the state do to incentivize people to further their education, get a doctorate, get a master's? What do we do as a school district, and what does the state do?
Well, there's an adjustment in their pay based on their.
A different scale for every, an A, which is a bachelor's, a master's, specialist, and a doctorate. There's a different pay scale.
Right, for each level. Do we do any reimbursement of expenses or anything like that? Okay.
I wish we did.
Can
Can we get some post reimbursement after you finish?
Are we aware of any school districts that do that?
But we're the innovation nation. We're the first for a lot of things.
Those are great questions, Mr. McNeil. I appreciate it.
Any other questions or comment for Dr. Smurthwaite? Okay, thank you, Dr. Smurthwaite. Item 1G, school improvement presentation, Dr. Myrick Nix.
I am Ms. Hart, standing in for Dr. Nix.
Okay.
And I want to focus on this first page, and I do have just a little bit. This is the handout he normally gives you, and on the front I added an extra page. And also, thank you, School Board Appreciation Week. We appreciate each and every one of you. There you go. So the main focus that I really wanted to show you guys, and I'm very excited, this is my second year at Colmer, and I've seen so much growth at Colmer as far as culture and data. If you look in that bottom left-hand quadrant, I highlighted 3 boxes for you. And it's not up here on the board, but what you have in your hand is, if you look at the reading percent of growth in the blue percentage, that's where we were last year. So last year we were at 54% growth. So at this point last year, we grew 54% of our kids. This year we're at 59%. So one great thing about that is at 54% last year, we were actually ahead of the year before. So we're seeing that trend come up in reading. The same for math. If you look last year, we were at 50% growth for the second benchmark, and this year we're already at 57.2 growth. That's for all of our kiddos. Proficiency is a little shaky. Those are those boxes right above it. We still have some work to do on proficiency. I think the biggest highlight I want to show you all is the bottom 25% for math. That's that very bottom box. Last year at this time we were 57% for bottom 25, and we're already at 67%. So one thing, when all of our scores came in last year, all of our points, the majority of our points came from our bottom 25. So we're still pushing those kids up, and we're still growing our babies. And also on the second page of this document, if you guys have this document, here's our numbers here. We're still looking pretty good. Our student ADA has come up. We've done a lot of things to promote attendance, like Mr. or Dr. Smartway. We're knocking on doors, we're calling parents, we're signing contracts. We're finding where these kids, just we're doing incentives for them to be to school. Our chronic absenteeism is down. It's wonderful. Our teacher attendance is coming up. And I'll say one thing about teacher attendance, and I want you all to know there have been so many changes at Colmer as far as school and climate. And if you haven't been there in a while, please come visit us. We have done so much with Jostens and with the Jostens Renaissance and the school climate and the excitement. And we've seen so many of our negative teachers turn around. They're positive and they're wanting to do all these things for the school. So I'm really excited about the teacher attendance. They're actually wanting to be at school now. And then our discipline referrals, they're a little bit up, but not too bad. And then on the sheet 3, again, just like Dr. Smartwaite said, these are all of the items that we are working on to get out of school improvement.
Any questions? Comments? I'd like to thank you for all that you do. And you were talking about visiting the schools. I have visited all the schools this year, and as always, I'm very impressed with going through every school, seeing students on task. You don't see anyone in the hall making any trouble, and most of the time I'll call them 20, 30 minutes before I get there, so they don't have time to get them together and say, all right, now we're going to act right. So I'm seeing the real thing, and there's a lot of great things going on in our schools, and I really appreciate that. Item 1H, school improvement, a presentation, Dr. Katara Payton.
Dr. Payton had a funeral to go to, so she was unable to get back. So I'm Elizabeth Butler. I'm one of the assistant principals, so I'll be presenting. Ms. Hard made me look bad. I did not bring y'all color copies. I'm so sorry. But we do thank y'all, and we appreciate you for your hard work, just like everybody else has expressed. We know that, kind of the higher up you go, the less the less gratefulness that you get a lot of times, and you got to make those hard decisions. So we appreciate your willingness to serve our school district and this community. Okay, so we're super excited about our data because it reflects actual state test data. It's not just a benchmark. It's not just our TE21 that we've been looking at, but our folks rocked it out. We were so excited. In English 2, we actually had 88% proficient, which we were super excited about, and even more excited about 93%. This is not on your paper, but Just in running the numbers, 93.7% of our kids showed growth. So most of these kids who take it first semester are our higher end kids. So to grow those kids takes a lot more work because there's just such a narrow room for growth. So for 93.7% to be growing and 88% to be proficient, we celebrated that big. So I'm very pleased with that data. On our Algebra 1, our Algebra 1 is, of course, we're in school improvement for math for our special education. We had 64% proficient. We did test not just our upper level kids, but some population of who we tested were kids who were struggling in math, and they struggled for 2 semesters last year. So we're working on their placement, and we have a great plan for next year. But good news, 78.1% of those students did grow. So we don't have bottom 25% growth because that's only half of our population that tested in December, or a portion of our population, but the growth of all is looking really good and right where we want it, so proud of that. U.S. history, 93% were proficient. Super excited about that, and 100% pass rate of our first-time testers. So we were thrilled with them, very proud. And in biology, 100% proficient, and then when you break that down, 70% of those were advanced and 30% were proficient. So we were super excited. And actually, Ms. Waltman is the only teacher who teaches those biology upper level kids, so super proud of her and her students alike. Very good. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Butler? Okay, thank you, Ms.
You're
Butler.
gonna love data. I was so hoping you'd have some questions because I nerd out with this stuff.
That just lets you know you did a good job initially, so we didn't have
There
that.
you go. Still a teacher at heart. Okay. Darn. Think of some questions. Okay. All right, moving on to the next page. We had 92.2% of student ADA. We're working on that. We have some incentives in place weekly and monthly in some class competitions. Really working on those kids with 2 or more absences. I'm gonna tell y'all, strep throat and the flu is killing us right now. So no excuses, but that is a reality we're facing. Teacher attendance rate up to 96%, and same thing, just like Ms. Hard said, we're really working to show appreciation for our teachers. They work long hours, they do a great job, and we're just trying to make sure that we let them know what a great job they do. And then the number of referrals up a little bit, but in January we do have more days than we did in December, so definitely better off than where we were this time last year. Some of the best things that our teachers are doing, that they're just rocking it out, we're really meeting and having PLCs, the professional learning communities, where we get together, we really focus on data, we focus on how that data can guide our instruction. Of course, just like I'm telling y'all here, I nerd out about data. I really nerd out about teaching strategies and how we can use that data to guide those teaching strategies, and our teachers are doing a phenomenal job.
Right.
Yeah. Did y'all think of any questions yet?
What percentage of our students would you say have tested so far?
In each subject area, it's going to be a little bit different. In English, there were 6 classes of about 20 kids.
Okay.
In U.S. history, that was our lowest population that tested. There were only about 5 classes of kids. Algebra, about 7 classes, and biology was 4 classes.
And you probably don't know, Mike, because you nerd out about data. What percentage of these students are first-time testers in these subject areas, and which ones are circling back?
The percentages that are shown here, just like in our state test, will only be based on first-time testers.
Okay.
So any of the repeaters, we wouldn't have included in this data. Good question. I can definitely get those numbers for you.
Yeah, no, that's
don't have
fine.
those memorized.
I was just making sure that's the way that we were representing it. Okay,
Well, Mr.
that's
Johnson.
fine. Yeah, okay.
She wants to get the number.
I'm
All about statistics.
gonna email those numbers, Mr. Johnson.
Please. I want to see it. But no, I know that that's the way the state sees it, right? And so is that the way that we were looking at it? And I assume so.
It is in our numbers, but of course we have a plan, a personalized, individualized plan for every retester and every subject. We let our department chairs kind of take that, and each department comes up with their own individualized plan for every retester, because in the end, they don't graduate if they don't pass these tests.
Right.
So we never let them go. We definitely, we use the term like own those kids, like take responsibility for them. We keep spreadsheets of who's showing up to tutor, and if they're not, they contact the counselor and the grade level administrator. We're making home visits. We do whatever we can to get these kiddos here.
Awesome. No, that's great. Some of the results I'm writing down that you're telling me, phenomenal.
Yes.
Actually, especially in regards to biology, 100% pass rate. That should be celebrated.
Absolutely. If y'all ever want to come, feel free. We'd love for you to, put faces with some of these teachers who are teaching. And y'all may know them, but they really give their heart and soul. We couldn't be more proud of them.
Well, thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all.
And next item, 1I, our recruitment video.
Okay. Before we get there, with the follow-up on Taylor's question, something that we do is math plus, an A+ teacher for math, A+ teacher for technology,
And reading.
and A+ teacher
Reading,
for
math, and
reading.
technology.
So every teacher at different grade levels has the ability, and some have the ability to get 3 of these A+ ratings. If they get those ratings, they get $500 additional stipend per year when they reach that A+. So you can make up to an extra $1,500 a year, and we evaluate you to determine whether you've reached that level of proficiency in district. The other thing that we do, and Mr. Ladner and I have been working on this year, is we try to give a fair amount of days for people who are working on their upper level degrees as a professional development opportunity. Of course, we can't give them all the time that they need, so it's kind of a trade-off, but that's another way that we're working to incentivize people that are working on their advanced degrees. I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. I had a different kind of award for the district, and I know you may have seen on, yes, sir.
Follow-up question about that just raises another point, and this is somewhat for you, Dr. Smithwaite. Don't reveal specific numbers, but I'm just curious, since the main incentive is a pay raise, and then we have the additional potential things where you can have some days off and professional development, how many years does it take from a pay raise standpoint, because you probably calculated this, to recoup the expenses of a doctorate?
I don't think I'll have enough years left to make that money back.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that I won't. 'Cause I'm on
I still haven't.
Okay.
I mean, it would be probably 25 years it would take
To recoup it
to recoup it.
from just a pure financial standpoint.
Just for my PhD.
Yeah. No, I would assume it gives you opportunities for promotion and different things,
Right.
and other opportunities that you may not have had the
That's
opportunity
right.
for.
Yes, sir.
But if you stayed in the same position for the rest of your career, there was no real financial way to recoup it from your
I
career.
don't, no, sir, I don't think so.
All right.
Are you speaking about just from your specialist to your PhD, or from your bachelor's to your PhD?
I would probably have to be about 300 years old to pay it all off. But just my PhD would probably take 20, 25 years.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if it was just a PhD. Okay.
All right, so we attended the Addies, which is a whole new thing, and I wanted to show you our latest video. Have y'all seen the newest video, teacher recruitment?
I don't know if I have or not.
And just to give you an idea of the impact of this video, I think our count now for views just off of our social media page is 4,000 views over the weekend.
Right.
Which is really unique for adults to have that kind of attention given to them. But this is our latest creation for our district, which is also running on WLF.
Technology training and excellent teachers. And one with excellent resources and technology for teachers and students.
I want a school district that celebrates student and teacher success.
Don't miss our teacher recruitment fair, March 21st in Pascagoula, and join our high-paying Innovation Nation, becoming the Pascagoula-Gautier School District.
So we were nominated through WOX, with WOX, as co-creators of this commercial, and we actually created it through our leadership team. And then we involved our teachers and students in it. And this Saturday, we were informed about, when we were filming, as a matter of fact, the day we were filming this commercial, they informed us that we had won an Addy. And we didn't know what kind of Addy we had won, we just knew that we won. So Ms. Damon, Ms. Anglin, and I attended the Addy Awards on Saturday night. And what we found out when we got there was we had won a gold Addy on our first trip into this advertising for our school district, and we were the only district that was there represented doing this type of marketing for our school district. Now, our ultimate goal is to get other districts to market their districts so that we can improve people's perception of public education in Mississippi. And we feel like that's going to happen, and we've seen some parts of that happening in different places, kind of some self-made stuff, but it'll be moving in that direction because we're kind of moving the market a little bit. But we were very pleased to receive a new type of award. And the really cool thing was everybody who makes money in advertising, over 300 people were there, and every one of them got to watch our videos of all of our commercials there, and all they saw was that big PG, Pascagoula-Gautier School District logo up there. And that's our goal and purpose, is to show the quality of the school district, the neatness of facilities, the advanced technology, and all those things. So we got to do that in one night with every advertiser on the Gulf Coast under the roof of that. And so we're now working on some other concepts, but we're also staying within our monthly budget to do that and create these productions. That will be the only commercial you see about us until we get to our recruitment day. But we're also using LinkedIn, and we've got some good attention on LinkedIn for a number of areas. I've got one post on LinkedIn with the Lieutenant Governor and I that has over 6,000 views on it right now. So we're making a good mark and a good name for our district out there by doing this across the board, social promotion and social networking. So again, but I want you guys to look at it, because now what I put out to our principals today was I want you guys to start generating ideas about what are some really cool things in Pascagoula and Gautier, Mississippi that we can highlight about marketing these two towns as it relates to improving the quality of the number of people buying houses and making a decision to live here. And that's it. But it is a unique award that we've never won before in the district, and I'm really excited about it because I'm kind of a movie guy, and so we won an award for doing something that
Well, congratulations on you and your team.
But I will say too about this board, you challenged us with this. Mr. McNeil, you challenged us more directly than anyone, and you said you wanted to see us out there and doing things, and so we've tried to respond to the challenge to the best of our ability, and we're seeing some positive outcomes from it. And it's a little bit of bragging on ourselves, but that's a good thing. Mr. Smurthwaite doesn't mind bragging on himself at all.
Well,
Look like this, you gotta take them where you can.
what
But
did
anyway, I
Dean
just wanted
say? If you
to-
can do it, it's not bragging. And but I'm glad you said that about Taylor, because I was thinking the same thing. That was something that Mr. McNeil brought up, and it's something that has really blossomed real quick. Like it's something, a lot of things we can't measure them for maybe a year, but this is something that we were able to measure rather quickly, and to win an award on our first stab at it, that's fantastic. And I congratulate you and your team who made these videos.
Yeah, I concur. Congratulations. Y'all did a wonderful job with this and really taking this on and running with it. A couple questions. So that last video, where is that being played specifically?
It's on WLX during all their news shows. We've got the schedule for when it plays. It's also across every social media platform. We re-release it every week on every platform until we get there. Debbie's a member of the state organizations. It'll go out to all of them. We'll send it out to colleges to see if they'll post it for us. We've got our own people posting it all over. We've encouraged people to, and same thing for you guys on the board. Put a few comments out there and say, hey, check out the Pascagoula-Gautier School District. Because we're really trying to make a shift there. And we're in the cover of South Mississippi Living. We had that big old article in there that was responded to very well as well. We got a big spread. If y'all saw the new MSBA manual, it's got a nice piece in there about us as a district to torch the Lantern Award again. So it's good to be stacking those things up, we also, and you got the letter I sent out to everybody.
Right.
But the last thing I'll say is this last governor's award, we did something different. Even though we did the majority of the recruitment for Jackson County becoming a work-ready, ACT work-ready community, because all the other districts had an involvement in it, we asked the Baco-McCarty Foundation if they would help to pay for the additional governor's award for the other 3 school districts who had all pitched in kind of building this synthesis of effort towards us becoming an ACT work-ready community. And there's a whole nother level beyond school that will take place in Jackson County as far as employing people that we think we can help to generate better paid employees that can put more money towards our community. We're having a high rate of success with Ingalls right now, putting underemployed and unemployed people to work through our center that we have here. And we're pulling together Second Chance Mississippi with Dickie Scruggs' organization, Baco-McCarty Foundation, Pascagoula-Gautier School District, and Ingalls Shipbuilding to try and build this model for what we can do all over the state for underemployed and unemployed people. And so that's where we're going. And we're going to talk more about that when we get to strategic planning and when we get to our board work sessions. So we'll be bumping lots of ideas out there.
Thank you once again. Okay, item 1J, do we have any visitors?
We do not.
Okay, item 2A, consent agenda memo.
We're grouping several routine items into a single consent agenda. Any board member may request that any or all items on the consent agenda be removed and considered a separate item. If no such request is made, all items on the consent agenda may be approved by a single action. Motion second vote of the Board of Trustees. Consent agenda for February 10th, 2020. Request for approval of board meeting minutes, January 21st, 2020. Request for approval of personnel resignations recommendations. Request for approval of student assignments and transfers. Request for use of donations and grants. Request for approval of use of facility. Request for approval of removal of equipment from inventory and disposal. Request for approval of application certificate of payment number 22 to Wharton Smith Incorporated. Request for approval of school calendar for 2020-2021. Request for approval of 2019-2020 extra duty supplements. Request for approval of 2019-2020 athletic supplements. Request for approval of overnight field trips, CCTI hosted team. Request for approval of job descriptions. Request for approval of licensed administrators, CTL staff, educational technology integration specialists, and non-licensed administrators for the 2021 school year. Request for approval of assistant superintendents and principals for the 2021 school year. Request for approval of enrollment of out-of-district student whose parent is an employee. It's recommended that all items on the consent agenda for February 10th, 2020 be approved.
Does any board member have any item they want to remove from the consent agenda to act on separately? All right, hearing none, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Irving to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion on the items?
Couple of questions. We have some retirements of people that have been with the district for a really long time. What do we do as a district? I mean, I know obviously PERS starts kicking in, so things can be nice. But besides just enjoying PERS, what do we do as a district for long-term employees besides like a PTO recognizing them or something? Like, do we do anything?
We have a retirement reception for all of our employees every year, and they receive a apple to commemorate their years of service. One of the issues we're running into, I'll let Ms. Grant explain it to you, with the state auditor about our ability. As I told you earlier, I asked Baco-McCarty if they would pay for the awards for the other districts. We don't have the ability to purchase things and give them to our employees because it's construed as extra compensation. So Ms. Grant, you can explain it, but that's one of our challenges right now is locating someone to do those awards for us, and they're not inexpensive. They're rather expensive to do.
He explained it. The auditor's office is taking a hard stand. I don't know if you guys get the technicalities that they send out, but that was what they addressed in January. Technicalities is you can't purchase gifts to employees, so we're going to have to go in a different direction, be creative in how we're able to celebrate the employees that are retiring from us.
Just one comment. This is the shortest consent agenda we've had in a while.
It is.
Didn't wrap around, didn't even finish the alphabet the first time. Okay.
I got one other question.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so we have a list of principals and superintendents that are up for approval, and we don't have the schools. Say if a principal, or it's the principals and assistant superintendents, excuse me. Say if somebody changes positions, or does that come back in front of us? In other words, a principal goes from this school to this school, or vice versa? Because right now, all we're doing is approving a list of principals and assistant superintendents. How does that work?
Yeah, they're approved in their current positions right now. And if the transfer does get made vertically, then we will come back to the board. If it's lateral, we'll inform the board, but not necessarily come back before the board for it.
Okay. So we don't have a say in approval or anything for a lateral, because any assistant superintendent move into another assistant superintendent, that's going to be lateral. I mean, the only vertical from an assistant superintendent to superintendent. So basically, we would have no approval, say, over an assistant superintendent transferring within the department.
And we do have an assistant superintendent that's retiring, and we are looking at 2 different pathways to go with that, which could be not replacing the assistant superintendent and just giving some of those responsibilities divided up among existing upper level leadership.
Okay. And then, so same thing for principals, though, like a principal changes schools, or even a principal at an elementary school goes to a middle school because of retirement, whatever happens, that doesn't come to us for approval.
So it's in, actually, when we go through our policy reviews, in our personnel section, we kind of grant that authority during current school years. It's GBMA speaks to that for transfer or reassignment when it comes to the license. If it's a, let's say we have something with like a teacher, a student-teacher ratio at this school, and all of a sudden they need the assistant principal they didn't have, or whatever, and those moves need to be made. I think it's we approve the position for the year, and then assignment is pretty well left to the administration.
And I would think that they're pretty much approved for where they are right now, because when they sign their contract, they get paid on different scales for responsibility factor. As say the Martin Bluff elementary school principal, which is the largest elementary school that we have there, they'll make more money than say Lake Elementary, where you have maybe like 100 students and all. And so you would, if they sign that contract for this much money and then you move them, then you've got to continue to pay them that higher amount. Is that correct, Mr. Dolphin?
Yeah, we would make the adjustment if someone's promoted to a higher level. If they're currently at a single A school and they move to a triple A school, then they would be compensated at the level of school they were moved to.
But I'm talking about, we wouldn't want them to say have a high principal go down low, because we're going to have to pay them that money the rest of the year.
Right.
Okay. And I'm just trying to understand, historically and from a policy standpoint, what we do and don't approve from a personnel standpoint. Because I know at Gautier High School, I mean, that came before us last year. But do most principal positions, if it's a new hire, do they not come in front of us?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it would. It would on a new hire, and that was kind of that was a kind of different situation. And when we allowed, and the board had to allow a contract termination for that vacancy to become a vacancy in the beginning, right? But an event like that, absolutely, we'd have to see it on 2 sides. One for the early termination of contract, and then 2 to fill that vacancy.
Okay. So any new principal hire technically comes in front of us, even if it's just on the regular list?
It'll be on the personnel report. It'll be on the personnel report, typically.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. Okay, item 5A, Performing Arts Center, Mr. Johnson. I sure did. Informational report item. No, back to docket of claims, item 3A. It had jumped up on me. Okay.
All right, attached to the district docket of claims, beginning with claim number 184 2180 through 1843581 for the month of January 2020. The recommended Board of Trustees ratify the payment of claims as presented in the attached docket of claims.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Johnson.
Second.
Who wants to?
You can have it.
Seconded by Ms. Birdie. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0. One abstention. Okay, we have, I'm glad that we started doing that. That way we don't have to alter the consent agenda. We removed it as long, if we know that there's a problem up front. Conflict of interest, we'll say.
Yeah.
Item 4A, informational reports. Look at the vandalism report first. Looks great. No losses as of January.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Just on this? Guys, it's to have 40 properties over 2 cities and to have 0 vandalism says a lot about the respect that our kids, and I know that I'm about making this statement, I just doomed this for next month. But
Yes.
when you look at the quality of facilities that the children are enjoying and the way that they're being appreciated by our children and the community, because typically if we have something happen, it happens over the weekend, and we typically have people in the community that come forward and tell us who they saw and what they did because they want to keep things nice around here. And I just think it says a lot about the quality of our kids and the quality of our adults as it relates to taking care of something that they have pride in here, and that's our school. So, but I am, and we do apply the broken windows theory here in the district. We don't allow vandalism to stay up for 1 second. If someone paints something on a wall, it's down by the end of that day. We don't allow people to keep trophies by damaging our facilities. It's becoming a little more challenging with some of the mechanical things because we're having to order those things from out of town now, where you used to be getting most of them in town. But we're really excited about the way that our kids and our teachers and everyone protects our buildings and facilities.
Yes, you're absolutely right on that, because watching the news, periodically you see different schools throughout the Gulf Coast area that have been vandalized, and for a pretty substantial loss there. And we've been fortunate not to have that. As we look, we only have $535.66 for the year, which is fantastic. Any comments or vandalism?
This kind of correlates. I don't know where else I'm going to talk about it, but it reminds me that I just wanted to congratulate and commend the baseball team, Pascagoula High School baseball team. They had a baseball clinic for kids in the district, or anybody could come really, to it. I think they had 79 attendees. They were mostly kindergartners to like 7th graders, some kindergartners to 6th graders, 79 attendees. It was very well done. Great attendance, and the coaching staff of the baseball for the Pascagoula High School baseball team did a wonderful job putting it on. But they also instilled in those kids a respect for the facilities. I heard them mention it from the very beginning. It was one of the first things they talked about was respect of the facilities, and then talked about it repeatedly throughout the baseball clinic. So I was impressed with that. I also have a question. So, for example, we have this wonderful field that's on Ingalls Avenue, and you drive by it. Can like a facility like that, can that be rented?
Talking about the south field?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we, basically do that a lot of times.
It'd be a
Yeah.
used facility
Used,
request.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we typically work a lot real well. We specifically built that field for a practice field, but also so that the city of Pascagoula would have a place to play football that's a secure area that's on our property. And because formerly they played it where the Performing Arts Center is. That's where Pee Wee football used to be. And the concept that we're pushing now in Gautier is building those fields out there so that we have a safe place on our campus where we can control the behavior of people who come on that property.
Okay. So
I'm sorry.
Go
Go ahead.
What is primarily the south field used for?
It's used for lacrosse. It's used for girls soccer practice. It's used for some
field day out there.
football practices, field days. City of Pascagoula uses it for their Pee Wee football league. And the concept that we have there is the exact same concept we're trying to put into Gautier. The same kind of bleacher system, you know, concession area, but maybe a track because there's not an existing track over there. But that's what we're pushing for.
Understood. Thanks.
Good quality, secure spaces.
Next item, the discipline report. Any comments or questions about that? Hearing none, we'll go to the construction update. Here we go. Any comments or questions on the construction update?
Since Mr. Harris moved up to our road, he's going to answer all questions.
Okay.
Speaking of,
You're not like Jerry Flower with that chauffeur he had. No, the Performing Arts Center, I took a tour of that first of last week, I think it was, and it's really looking good. You know, on the report, let's see if I can find it here. You mentioned that JBHM's recommendation for substantial completion not be granted until significant progress is made on the punch list and certain incomplete aspects of the project. Do we find that they're dragging their feet on that, or what? I don't know. I just kind of read it like maybe they are.
Yeah, I don't know that I put it that way.
No, okay.
But it's, you know, substantial completion means
Right.
you can use it for its intended purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I go do a 40-page punch list, we get a 90-page punch list from the contractor, which in and of itself is not that uncommon, but I can't give you substantial completion until we make
Right, I
significant
understand
progress
that.
whittling that down. And just, you know, to give you an example, there's an area of terrazzo that, you know, for whatever kind of looks like a shadow line is actually a different color. They're in there chipping it out right at the front door. You know,
Yeah.
so I was there about 4:30 today. Well, you can't move in and use that, and it's
Right.
making a heck of a mess
Right.
in there. So that's kind of where we are. You know, I thought we would have been substantially complete right now. I can't recommend
Right, I
do it.
understand.
You know, I think we're probably a week or two out from that.
Okay.
So
Well, I was
that's
just
just more
wondering, you know.
legalistic warranty.
absolutely.
Liquidated. I mean, that affects a lot of things, but that's really to y'all's benefit at that point. So,
Yeah. Well, like I say, my only question was I was hoping that we're not dragging their feet.
no, I don't
Okay.
think that's the case. It's just, you know, but it has taken longer to get there, frankly. So I mean, maybe it is the case. So,
I think that's going to be.
We're hoping for that. You know, if we need to convene special lunch or something like that to accept, you know, to meet a deadline, to do some things we want to do instead,
Yeah.
if that's needed, let us know.
yeah, no, we'll just.
Yeah, I think
We'll
with
just do the
the,
document when it needs. I mean, I don't think there's any reason to go to any great lengths for it. It's just kind of a formality once we get to that point is generally how that's done.
and I think they have budgeted pots of money that they have for each part of the center, and I think that their leadership is probably having them exhaust all those pots of money before they come back to them for anything that might be out there. Because that's kind of the conversation that we're having one day about, we've got this much money left to clean floors, and I was just over here and while I was walking through there.
Well, and frankly, I mean, that's, you know, you go through there, they're going to have to clean that entire building probably 2 more times.
Right.
And so that's, you know, that's another reason to not have it be substantial. And I want to sit, you know, I don't want to argue with them, and that happens a lot. And so I just want to be in a position to say, no, they haven't been in here. Like, this is, you know, we've not turned this over yet. And, you know, I think we're in a position to do that, even though you guys would certainly like to have a building.
Not as bad as I want it right when we get it.
That's right.
That's right.
So that's kind of where we are right now.
I just think it's a fantastic facility. I mean, I've been to casinos, and I'm not a gambler, but I've been to shows there, and I don't even see the casinos having anything as nice as that. I mean, it is certainly not at any other high school that I've ever been in that they had anything remotely close to that. And I think the contractor so far has done a good job as far as I can see. You know, it depends on
Yeah.
how well it is.
Timely. They haven't been timely, but I mean, other
Yeah,
than
not
that,
timely.
you know,
Yeah,
we'll
not
get
timely.
there. No, it's part of
I would rather
construction,
spend a little more
unfortunately.
time and have it right than I would rushing to get it done quickly and it not be exactly like we want.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes, conceptual site plan update on schedule, on task for the aforementioned Gaucher athletics expansion.
Yes,
There.
we're working on it.
And
It looks like we are going to need to do some soil borings or do something, which, I mean, it's really a really bad time to do that right now.
yeah,
Trying to take soil borings in the wetlands area.
Right.
But that's, I mean, I think to accomplish the goal, that's what we're gonna have to do. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of choice because we've got to have a specific ask to the county, as I understand.
Yes.
We can't go ask them to do something that they don't understand what they're committing to or, you know, et cetera. So, but we are pushing that forward.
we still think if the weather will hold at all, March meeting possibly a little bit further along.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and again, it could rain for the next 2 weeks, an inch a day, and I get it.
Yeah. And then it may just be they take a hand auger in there and do it, you know, which is not what I would want to do, but that's, I mean, they're going to sink a piece of equipment if they try to take it in there. So that may just be what they have to do. So,
We should, before the next board meeting, though, have your estimate on what it's gonna cost to do the soil boring.
Okay.
yeah.
Because, I mean, somebody's gotta pay for that. It's just like the auditorium and all that, that's a $18,000 job, so when you're talking the whole area for a field,
No, we'll probably just, we're going to keep it general, I think, just to have some general idea of what might we have to do to prepare the site. You know, do we need to muck out 3 feet, 5 feet, 1 foot, you know, whatever. Because that's going to add up significantly. So,
If I remember correctly, the county paid for the field at the new high school, Pascagoula, if I'm not badly mistaken. You know,
which one?
Pascagoula, that's what we were told back then.
Oh, yeah, that's 1940 something, I don't know.
No, the new high school. No, hey, I'm not that old.
so when the new PHS was built?
The new PHS was built, and I can remember looking out there and they hauled dirt for days on end, and of course it looked like it was about 6 or 7 feet tall.
The county been there?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Wow.
That's what we were told.
That's a good
And that
deal
was
for
a lot.
y'all if they did.
A lot of county trucks. That was a lot of dirt.
Because when I looked at the old prints, I thought it was done by the contractor. The county dug the ditch,
Well, the ditch has been there forever.
but I mean, they redefined the ditch and the drainage.
Yeah. But there were some county trucks delivering dirt. But anyway,
Could have been a Jackson County special too. I didn't say that.
I'll just say this, for Weber, if I am fortunate enough to be reappointed on the board, I'll see you next month. He can tell me about 1940, the old high school, really in the 30s.
Yeah, that's like city-owned old stadium, where Shipyard built the home side of the old stadium. I'm like,
Yeah.
Actually, I saw the newspaper, the old high school, when the Chronicle Star, it used to be our newspaper, some of you may remember, but it was just a huge, it was probably a whole section of paper when the old high school opened in the 30s. And it was amazing to me, the high school had a boxing team, and it showed all the teams, and they had a lot of girls sports, which, you know, for several years we didn't have, and then they came back. So it was really amazing to see. It was a big event. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
One comment, the public hasn't been able to see the inside, most of the public, but I've heard a lot of compliments about the landscaping, a whole lot of compliments. And, you know, I think it may be the best landscape building that we already have on all of our facilities, and it's not even open yet. So I just wanted to compliment y'all that the landscaping, I'm just getting rave reviews from the general public.
And it is nice.
Thank you.
had to do something to hide them 3 ugly retention ponds in those schools.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we could talk to the city and to put some curbing down there where they ran off the road by the little trees there they've got planted so close there.
Yeah. Actually, it's draining better around there too.
Yeah.
Tucker is draining better.
Well, good.
So it has made some improvements for the neighborhood. The neighbors won't tell you that, but that's a fact. So.
Yeah, those trees in that grass area now has sock piping for a drainage system to help move that water off the street into the parking lot.
Okay.
So it's not just a green area.
Okay.
Oh, one comment. So when I was at the baseball clinic, one other comment. When I was at the baseball clinic, I did see where the old parking lot has now been meshed with the new parking lot. There, it's retaining water in the middle of the parking lot.
They're gonna fix that, so, yeah. We've been fighting about that a little bit.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, next item, 4A, discussion item, tuition for 2021 school year. Mr. Doctor.
Yeah, we have been working to put something before the board. We're going to get the board to firm up the numbers for us. We've got a proposal here for charging tuition, and it's set at $1,500. We believe that it would be difficult to open up our one-section schools for tuition, but because of the premium on that in that area. So Ms. Damon can give you a little bit of that background as it relates to elementary schools and tuition. But I wanted to just get your feedback if there's anything you see here, because we also want to have a pretty restrictive process, that we're not a place where people bring children who don't behave well to come to school, because we're not going to allow children who aren't behaving in other districts to come here and be enrolled into our regular classrooms. They will go to whatever placement they receive from wherever they are. And we're dealing with a circumstance like that right now that I'll enlighten you more about as we move into it. But we're not going to be a place where people send children who don't behave to come to school. But that's kind of a small proposal. Once you give us a solid feedback, if the 1,500 is okay, there's a discussion item, but you can, tell us, collectively as a board if you're in agreement with that number. I do think it's an opportunity to recruit some students into the district. We have to look at the athletic policies with Mr. Freeman if it becomes an athletic issue, because we still have the same MHSAA rules that apply as it relates to that. So it can't be a vehicle to bring kids into the district unless they want to sit out a year. Right. And we have dealt with that before from Resurrection and other surrounding schools, not knowing that their children would have to sit out.
When we say the tuition amount is due up front and will not be refundable, we mean non-refundable for any reasons. If the child acted up and had an expulsion or whatever, that sounds good. I mean, I like it, but I was just wondering.
I think death would be the exception.
And this is K-12, K through 12? Are we covering our potential cost with that $1,500 per student? I'm just wondering, I don't...
What the tuition really is compensating the district for is not receiving the ad valorem dollars.
Right, for their taxes.
Yeah, we're still going to get the ADA for them.
Okay.
So it's, the tuition kind of helps cover the ad valorem piece.
Yeah, we probably would not be able to get any students if we charge what we spend per student each year. How much is it now?
$13,000.
How much?
$13,000.
13. So $13,000 per student. I don't believe we'd get any.
What do we get ADA per?
I think the base student cost when they did the MAP formula was maybe $5,200, $5,300 is how the state said it. I haven't seen the formula for next year yet, actually.
So that combined with $1,500, probably about half of what we...
Right. And that's just the state side. Some of that's federal dollars that go towards that expenditure per pupil amount.
Any suggestions? Or?
What, on the ad valorem side here, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, roughly what we collected, say, last year, number-wise, ad valorem?
Just for operations, 57, 56 million.
And then roughly how many students in the district?
68, 6,768.
How many students in our district?
Mm-hmm.
Around 6,800.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it, but it's still not, it's not gonna touch what we really put in. But will we be okay, and I guess this is more of a A Kelly question, with some schools being opened up for tuition and some not, are we gonna, like, opening up 3 section but not being able to do the 1 section schools, are we gonna face any kind of issues with that?
I wouldn't think there would be unless we get some sort of, racial disparity that was really out of whack that we had to take a look at. But, I mean, I think our ability to manage space and all those concerns should be sufficient for us.
Well, each school where that child attends that wants to come here, they have to be released by their school board to come here. And so it's not just automatic they're going to be able to come. And also, what I would like to see is at least an explanation in there that just because you paid tuition this year, and of course you were a good student, that it's not necessarily going to be approved the next year, because what if we had a big influx of people moving the area because of, say, Huntington Ingalls? We don't want to get to that point to where we're overcrowded.
I think it'd be a hard sell for me to pull my kid out and pay for 1 year not knowing if they're going to stay.
Well,
you know what I mean?
that's not, that's
kind of that's going to be a challenge.
But I doubt that will come to pass.
Right.
But if you hear all the rumors and all, they say they're going to hire 5,000 people at Ingalls, that's going to bring a lot of people in. And so maybe that we don't know how many in our district, or just,
I do think you bring up a good point about the term. Is this just for 1 year? I mean,
Right.
So people's expectations aren't that it's, as long as I keep paying money.
Yeah, if I
We
meet
did a lot of research on the other districts that have tuition, and most of them have that every year you reapply, that it's not a guarantee. That's the 3 or 4 that we were working with, kind of reading, and most of them say that it is you reapply every year.
Well, the goal is the person moves into your community and they're pleased with what's going on in the schools as an end result. That people say, well, you know what, I'm going to beat this 1,500, I'm just going to move into Pascagoula-Gautier in order not to do it. The other thing is we've got ample space right now with, the decrease in enrollment, and we're holding at a number that was set for, 72, and we're at 67 or 8. But the challenge is, and this is all math, but you've got, all these school sites, and you have to employ people at all those sites in order to make that breakdown on the campuses. You've got to have a secretary, you've got to have a principal, you've got to have custodians, cafeteria people. So you're going to have that cost there anyway, so you might as well do something to bring some additional dollars in. And like Mr. Back said, there's a anticipated increase in workforce here, and we'll see how that plays out. But they're absolutely going to have the contracts in place at Ingalls, and they are building the infrastructure on Ingalls property in order to take on a larger workforce. And we will receive some of the benefit of that workforce at some point, whether it be next year or the year after.
Who do we have in mind to be, are we going to have a tuition approval group that decides the yes or the...
It'll come as a new student, just like we do stuff in the board now.
Okay.
Just like we have exceptions in board policy, we'll have a special item for tuition students, and the board will be able to accept or reject the application.
Okay.
So it'll be an application process. It'll come under just our student services.
Gotcha.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I've got a handful. So what's our general goal of going live with the policy, however it comes out, from a date standpoint, if parents ask us?
Well, it'd be for fall of next year.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, when would the policy be live that they could actually
You would have
submit the
a reading of the
application?
policy. If we were to do it, you'd have a reading of the policy next month, and then you would have approval of it in April, and then the policy would be in place.
And most districts start the application process in the summer after they've done registration, so they see how their schools are falling out, and then they open up tuition, so it'll be in the summer before we even start, that people can start doing the application process.
Okay. We've talked about this before. I may have been under a mistaken belief because maybe some schools used to have a grade requirement. My understanding is nobody has a grade requirement that does these policies anymore. Is that something that we should consider a grade requirement.
That's the purpose of us putting before you guys tonight. If you want a standard for grading, then the board can say, we prefer that this language is in there, and then when we come back for the first reading next month, you can say, well, that language is acceptable, not acceptable. I can put it in the form of a Friday update to you, just so you know generally what's out there. And I can speak to you individually about, your different concepts and ideas. But once you give us, once you say, okay, we'll set it at 1,500, we'd like there to be some standard of grades. You can't come here with all Fs. You have to have at least a 1.5 GPA when you come here. Then we build a policy based off that rubric that you guys give us feedback for.
Yeah, I think behavior, like I don't want people coming here that have been suspended 3 times in their last school year. I don't want people coming here to cause problems. So for me, behavior is kind of more so important than grades and, as far as personally.
I agree. I agree.
think having standards for both would be a good way to go.
Yeah, I would personally like to see some grade requirements. Maybe a grade GPA at your prior school and a GPA requirement for you to maintain while you're here, whether it's 2.5 or whatever it is. I would like to see some type of grade requirement. I don't know. I mean, anyway, I don't know the legality of that, Kelly, and with how that would apply to SPED students or others. And so I don't know how that. I just don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. With regard to behavior, I think we are all in agreement with behavior. The more difficult thing for y'all to do as an administration is to put maybe a little bit of specifics in there, so we're not arbitrarily and capriciously just denying kids because one kid, well, where's the line? 1 suspension, 4 referrals. What do we want? What is the kind of the hard line? And then, of course, there's going to be some gray area, and we have a lot of discretion as a board to do that, to not let kids in because of behavior, just like we do when we're doing our own discipline issues. We have a lot of discretion with that. But it's just something to think about, I think, when y'all are building this policy. And do we need specifics in behavior or do we not? What would be best for our perspective? It may be helpful to put something about the MHSAA transfer rules in the policy, just to almost as an FYI to parents, because I think a lot of them aren't going to think about that when they're filling out the application.
Yeah, even a signature for just that, a whole page, just knowing that they're aware if they've got a student athlete, they've got to sit out.
I think Mr. Rodolph sent out on a Friday memo, it's been a while back, but there was kind of a draft form where we kind of started going through. The packet will have a lot of narrative. It'll answer a lot of these things that you're talking about too. Where the way we did the sheet was that the parent would initial all those type things: attendance, behavior, grades, athletics, those type things.
Yeah, and that's, the packets we've looked at, like the behavior statement is a whole report that comes from, the previous principal has to fill out. So it's a whole report, that's what that behavior statement is. The report card kind of tells you what kind of child, what kind of grades they were making, those types of things. So a lot of that is in the packet, and there's all kinds of statements we put in there as far as those types of things, making sure you're here.
Then that packet would come to you.
And is there anything in there about being responsible for transportation to and from?
Yes, that's also one of those things.
Yes, we don't, and we got to be very careful there in regards to students with specific IEPs and that may provide for transportation, that we address.
Yeah, a lot of language in those other districts will say something to the effect that, educating this child is going to be greater than the normal cost. That's kind of how they've worded it. They haven't said IEP, they haven't said 504, they haven't used those words, but just that the cost to educate the child will be greater than the normal, or that will be taken into account when looking at the tuition packet.
Yeah, and likewise, I don't know what our legal mandatory requirements are, but if there's a student in North Jackson County or Harrison County I mean, I would assume we don't have like a legal obligation to provide a bus to that student, but.
Well, that's a question for Kelly.
If it's outside the district.
But something in the policy to maybe address that.
If we're dealing with a student that might be,
Yes.
and the parent makes a claim that they want transportation, and that's the right of their student to have transportation. We've been down this road before.
Well, that would also go back to if the cost exceeds the average student.
And we've had parents accept the request to provide transportation and then reverse.
Right, we've had that happen this year. Yeah.
So that's my thing. We gotta be wary of. And in my opinion, on the discipline end of it, kind of marry what everybody's saying, I guess. And Taylor said we have a lot of discretion in-house with our own disciplinary action. That all starts with a recommendation of the administration, one way or the other. We look at the facts, why this or that recommendation, and we either approve or, so I'd be a little cautious about getting too particular, how we want to word it. I think the current system, like we have it in place, gives them the autonomy to look at the whole picture, form a recommendation. It's going to come to us, and we can look at it and we'll say X, Y, and Z are the reasons I recommend or do not recommend accepting this student, and then we have the discretion to approve it or not, right? If we put those hard lines in there, it kind of takes away everybody's ability to look at the whole picture, in my opinion. Again, just my thoughts.
My thoughts only is that I believe that we have a great administrative staff, that they're going to make sure that they have things in there that protect them. And when I say protect them, they're the ones that are going to deal with the hard problems initially. They're the ones that are going to get the masses come to them, and they're going to try to word it so that they will not have these problems. But ultimately, we'll make the real tough decisions at the end. But a lot of those, they're going to be, we'll say, first base for them. They're going to stop at them, and whether it be chewing them out or whatever, they're in the trenches, if you will.
A couple other questions. All right. Who can quickly name what schools are the 3 section schools that are elementary schools?
East Lawn, Arlington, and Jackson and Pascagoula, and everything in Gautier.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right. So you will likely have students or parents who, or at least some, may request an elementary school. Okay. How does that work? How do we handle that? Is it based off of, we will honor your request if the enrollment allows for it?
Correct.
Okay.
And it would say that in the packet. It says that, that's where you have to, you have to look at enrollment and those types of things, so.
One trap we never want to get into is if a parent lives in the school zone who's a resident of this community, that they somehow have to move to another school because we don't have space. Because we put a tuition student in that last slot. Which you as a board, we can establish this during our work sessions and budgeting sessions, but the number we work from in elementary is
Class size?
Yeah.
20 K through 2 and 23, 3 and 4.
Yeah, so that's where our numbers are set. State numbers are higher than that. Being a district with a B rating, we can go even higher. We found that the smaller class sizes had been more advantageous for our kids. And so, again, the board can make an exception to the number of students that are in any specific class, but it can become a trap too, because you have a kid you have a child that you say, okay, well, we're going to bump this from 22 to 23, and then you have 2 children buy houses in the community, and now you're at 25.
Yeah, could we keep like a buffer of spaces that aren't filled for that purpose, for transfers in and out? Like if we had, availability for 30 kids at East Lawn, that we could say, hey, we could fill a spot.
Indeed, I don't.
Well, I'm just saying, maybe only assign 15.
Right.
Don't.
Right. You just
let all
have,
your
I mean,
space
we
go
have to
to
look
the
at it all the
tuition.
time. This week alone, I've gotten 2
Right.
calls about, okay, the number is already over, there, there's
Yeah.
2 sections, they're sitting at 41, and I have a kindergartner sitting here, and I go ahead and put them in.
Right.
It's those types of things, because we already have issues with kids that have to go to a different school because we're over, so they live by this one.
Right.
Or their boundaries for this one, but we have to send them somewhere else because the numbers because we really don't want to get into that. But I mean, I have just about at every school, I have at A section or more, or grade, or that is over
Larger.
those numbers that we talk about.
Well, I've
And then
always,
every once in a while, I get a school that they're real low, grade that's real low, so.
for years, I've expressed my concern over that when we talk about when we approve exceptions
We do
to
the
policy.
exceptions.
I want to make sure that if we have a child that lives next door or across the street, what if they have that house for sale? And if I, as a parent, if my child could walk right next door to the school or across the street, but yet they said, we don't have room for you, we've got to send you to Central or somewhere like that, I would be pretty upset. And that's why I've always expressed, I don't mind approving them as long as we have the room.
Yeah, an additional comment is that while I agree that we should certainly look to the 3-section schools first, I can envision circumstances where it might make sense for certain families not to be in a 3-section school. I think that would be rare. But I would maybe say we word the policy that is likely or something, or that's where you're probably going to be, or however you want to word it. But we don't limit ourselves that is the only, it is not possible. You cannot be in another school. And then as a board, we may make a different decision depending on the request. That's just.
Well, I can tell you right now, I don't have space at any of those 4 schools that aren't available. Cherokee may be the only one that I have space at. Consistent. Central is always over. Beach is almost consistently over, and Lake is consistently over. Cherokee may be the only one that's not included in that would potentially have space right now.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's just not, that's why we went to that, because there's just not enough space to do that.
And the final thing I think I have is, I think the cost could be raised, quite frankly, from $1,500, and I would support that. Maybe the first year we start at $1,500 and we consider raising it the next year, but we have a lot of resources in our district, a lot of things that are offered to many students in our district, and it's expensive to do everything that we offer in our district. So I would, quite frankly, support a higher cost, and if y'all are more comfortable with $1,500 the first year, let's see how that goes, and maybe come back the next year, we raise it or something. I'm fine with that, but y'all were asking for feedback on cost, and I quite frankly would be supportive of a higher cost.
Well, I would rather have the higher cost initially, and then if we see that it's not
Right.
costing us that much,
Yeah, I'd rather
then we
start
drop
high.
it, because the parent might say, well, gosh, I wouldn't
got
put
me
him
in
over
here.
here if I knew it was gonna cost that much, you know? But
Yeah.
Well, the one thing, because earlier we're talking about incentive-based programming. So if you looked at it, let's say you said, okay, initial year is $2,000. If at the conclusion of the year your child's in good standing, then we'll reduce the number to $1,800. And then with the bottom cap number, so encourage them to stay by decreasing the number over time. And we can work up whatever y'all want us to work up on that, but try to create an incentive for people to want to stay.
well, like the attendance, for instance, if your child,
that'd be a
does not go
criteria.
beyond the attendance policies, whatever, because, we do get our money off that ADA. And,
Just so you know, the Gulfport's 2,000, Long Beach is 1,500, and Biloxi's 1,200. So just to kind of see where some of the other ones are falling out. So that's why, we just kind of went with 1,500. It was at the high, it wasn't the low. That's kind of how we landed there, but just.
I mean, 2,000's a bargain.
Yeah,
I think-
2,000 is a great
I
bargain.
mean,
Okay.
I side with Taylor, definitely. I mean, again, these are very rough numbers, but let's say you minus summer and all, we're in school 9 months out of the year with these children, let's just call it that, right? So at 1,800, that's 200 a month, so we're talking 50 a week, that's $10 a day. If you want to attend in this district, I think that's not too much to ask at all. Yeah, I'm a big fan of a little bit higher number myself.
Well, you're going to recoup that money if you were to add in what it would cost you to feed your child breakfast and lunch.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So the
I was just about to say
$4
that.
times
All of the
180,
field.
every year you're going to get free lunch.
So are
for your
y'all,
child and free
what are
breakfast.
you thinking about, 1,800?
I'd say maybe 2,000.
2,000, that way you can
2,000 is
step
still a
it
bargain.
down. If, you know, with incentives.
I mean, that's right.
I mean, that's a lot cheaper than, that's a lot cheaper than a lot of
Miss Green
people
wants it, Miss Green
pay.
wants it 4,000.
Okay.
You know, I'm saying, as far as competition locally with private schools, I have a lot, I say a lot, probably 5 people I know that would gladly pay 3,000 or 4,000 here for the resources that we offer, as opposed to where they're paying right now. So,
And understanding as well that only 5th through 12th graders would be in one, there's only one school to go to.
right,
So
right,
you're only really talking about that negotiating point at the kindergarten through 4th grade.
right.
I really think that we're going to find out what a lot of people think of our schools by how many applications we get to come here. And I'm hoping we get large numbers that want to come. And of course, I know we may not be able to accommodate them all, but I'm really hoping for a really large number.
And I just want to be clear, pre-K would not be included in this at all.
Okay.
So this only starts at kindergarten. So I just, pre-K is
You
specific.
better not bring any pre-K people in here. Mine's been on waiting list before. I know other people in here have been on waiting list before. If you'd have told me just to pay, we could have done that a long time ago.
Pre-K would not be
Yes.
included.
Okay, any other comments or questions to the administration?
Does that help, guys?
Yes, very much.
Oh.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I really am.
There's a lot more language, this is just the bones.
Yeah, and I think when you see the packet, because we
Yeah.
kind of mocked up some packets, we haven't really put it, but mocked up a bunch of them. When you see the packet, it will, a lot of what you've asked will be included in that, so.
Well, Matt raises another question for me. Would we be legally prohibited from opening a tuition-based pre-K program?
You wouldn't recoup your money.
We pay for all of that.
You would never recoup your
No,
money.
Ever.
yeah, we pay for
Ever.
That's $100,000 class, $100,000 per classroom just in personnel.
Yeah,
Times 6 is what we have now.
that's not setting up the classroom.
It gets back to Smurthwaite's number.
Yes, yes.
Are we ready to move on? Okay, we'll go to 4C, monthly financial report.
So,
Any questions there, comments?
things seem to be looking good.
We have money, so.
We do have money. Be real good. I mean, hoping the majority of people paid their taxes before 9 days ago.
This is our lowest point.
Right,
Is
and
December.
that's what I said.
That looks good.
I would have to go back and into the previous meetings, but I'd actually say it looks like we're in a little bit better standing right now this year than we were at this time last year. During the previous work sessions, asked the board about making some cuts and increasing our revenues. Well, say increasing revenue. You've got 2 ways to increase the bottom line. You either decrease your OpEx or you increase net, right? And asked you guys to figure it out, and you did. So I thank you. Moving into this upcoming cycle, don't throw anything at me. I know we're still a few months away. Same thing. You know, we had a lot of good out-of-the-box ideas, and some of it was some big change to control some cost and do some things. Some we were for, some not, but just asking again in preparations for that. Bring it back around. Anything as an administration, big or small moves, feel like we need to make to lessen the burden on our taxpayers.
Any other comments? Okay, moving right along. Now we'll get to down here 5A, Performing Arts Center, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, heard a lot about the facility tonight. Beautiful, things going great. Also on a recent tour, just caught my eye, inlay plaque there. We've got 2 standing board members now here with us that have been here for the overwhelming majority of this project. not listed on that plaque, and some previous members that are still listed in some different positions and things like that. Not trying to be petty, but for a couple of the people that have been here and not recognized, just wondering, or do we have any plans for that? Are there, anything like that?
Yes, because of the span of the project, and let me give you the process, the way it's worked for $110 million worth of projects and 15 years of building buildings. Whomever is the board that approves the project is the board that's listed on the project in the capacity that they were in whenever they approved it, which is a 500 and how many days, Ryan?
585, I think.
Yeah, 585 days. We've only had one other contract, that was a beach in Gautier Elementary, I think, spanned almost 2 years like that. It wasn't the same high-profile project. I've been talking with Ryan and Carl Bradley and Weber now for several months about putting a second plaque up because it is a fairness issue for me. Number one, we had the initial board that made the decision to build the Performing Arts Center, but the board that's currently seated did a lot of change directives, approved things around there, approved the furniture and all that. So my recommendation is going to be on the opposite wall where the current plaque is, that we would have a second plaque that comes in under our completion date as it relates to the board that's seated here. So on that plaque, you wouldn't have the assistant superintendents, maintenance director. You would have the 5 board members, superintendent that completed the project. So they'd be on opposite walls in there. But Mr. Irving's name would be there. The current board and its current makeup would be listed. So it would be Mr. Baggs as board president, Ms. Wilson as board secretary, and then member of Mr. Irving on there, and Mr. McNeil would be the addition. And it will be on the right-hand side.
What I think might be an easier solution, this is just me, instead of having 2 plaques, let's have the other plaque and list the current board, and then at the bottom of that board, and special thanks to Mike and Cannon and Dan Marks, previous board members, something like that, and you have 1 plaque.
I would disagree, Mr. Bax. I don't think that's fair to those 2 board members. They put themselves out there for that deal. This is a compromise of having 2 plaques that has a current board and its current status that finished the project. But the initial vote for the project, and it's the same on every building we've done, was done by those people that were the people who voted for the actual project to take place. But I don't think there should be an omission, nor do I think we should take a plaque down that's got a substantial investment in it.
What does the plaque at the Trentline gym say? What board? I haven't even. Is there a plaque in the gym?
Whoever the board was at the time that we
approved it or cut the ribbon?
Yeah, whenever it's approved.
I guess while I said that, it would not be an omission, and I look at Mr. Irving. He's been on the board 14 months, which is way over half the project. And Mr. McNeil, who's been on the project, on the job, we'll say 365 days, we know, which is over half. And excuse me for not, I guess if we added 30 days per month, Mr. Irving would be 425 days. And we just had a little over a 500-day project. And I guess that's just me speaking. And I just, whatever the rest of the board thinks, I'm okay with whatever the board decides. Any comments?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Sonny. I think, I don't know. I'd have to look. I haven't really, I've been to the Trentline gym and I didn't look at it, so I don't know if, what the standard is as far as the plaques inside buildings. When are those typically ordered? When are they placed? And is it something that,
About halfway through the project they're ordered, and then they're placed, like that one, somewhere in the last month or 2 of the project. mean, if it's a summer project, it's probably the last week.
When was this one ordered? Do you know,
I don't
Ryan?
know, we can look that up, so,
I'm just curious.
yeah. I mean, we basically deferred to, what Mr. Rodolfo said, the way it's always been is whatever. the
Right, I'm
building-
just, we got to
yeah.
look at, seat
That's right.
colors and,
That's right.
walls and stuff. I'm just curious why,
Yeah.
I guess that's just not customary that we would approve a plaque, especially if it's substantially, a major cost. I'm just wondering.
The only thing I'd say, being here all this time, the people that make the decision, they're the ones that went and put themselves out on the line to the taxpayers and to the city and to all the shareholders saying, we're gonna do this, like when we done the artificial turf and the field houses. They're the ones that made that commitment and made that vote that where taxpayers at that time were either happy or not happy. And to not keep them honored for making that stand, because that was a big stand. We fought the city on 4 different meetings that I'm aware of, not counting the ones that Mr. Kincannon and them fought behind closed doors that I wasn't invited in. So, I mean, that's the only way I look at it. $500,000 project, you're really not fighting anybody. But when you get to the $5 million, $6 million, then you're telling the whole taxpayer base that you're making a decision that you think is best for the school district.
Right, and I definitely think they shouldn't be excluded, but it's kind of disrespectful that we're excluding 2 board members who've been here through the, there could have been a compromise before we ordered a plaque, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Planning and, you save money, measure it twice, cut once kind of thing.
Sure.
So now we're in a dilemma, either we're buying another plaque or we're gonna add another plaque. We're still spending more money, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
So, just, I'd like to know when it was ordered, and it's just something that could have been avoided.
Sure.
Okay.
Agree with that.
Mr. Johnson, you got any comments? You brought it up. So.
Curiosity on my part, how long does a plaque like that typically take to get made? If I order one tomorrow, when can I look for it?
3 or 4 weeks. So,
Yeah, that'd be the best. I'd say.
no, they're quicker than you think they are. I mean, just because they've got an efficient process when they just say, have a CNC machine, route that out, pour bronze in it, ship it to you. I mean, it's just not that bad. But
What's the cost? Do you know what we spent
I
for the
don't.
plaque?
I mean, probably a couple $1,000s, something like that. So I mean, it's not inexpensive, but I mean, it's
Compared
not
to
like
15 million, it's not.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how to draw that line, but
Right,
it's not as much as you think it is.
Right.
So, you had an employee one time who misspelled our firm names. I'm like, oh no, this can't happen. I made it. So that was bad.
Well,
Yes, I wanted.
yes.
Well,
I was thinking about
with-
abstaining from this, but I'll just make this comment. So,
Let me comment something to you, David.
Okay.
I know that it's hard for you and Cleon to say something, but just envision it being reversed. Those two there.
I understand.
Okay, that's why.
So-
Whatever you think.
Yeah, I completely agree that Mr. Kincannon and Mr. Mark should be recognized. And I have no problem with them being recognized more than I'm recognized, for sure. And so, it's right. It's not really before Mr. Back said this, I was thinking it's not really that big a deal to me. I mean, quite frankly. But I am cognizant of what Mr. Bax just said. And so, I'm fine with Mr. Rodolfich's proposal, or just about any proposal y'all can come up with. Is really, I certainly think Mr. Kincannon and Mr. Mark should be recognized. And I appreciate the leadership that the board members here today showed in voting for that. I know that took some courage and took some vision. And that's vision that I did not have to participate in. And it was more vision than I've probably participated in. And it was a vision that came to fruition over the course of many, many years. So I think that's maybe my 2 cents.
Mr. Irvin,
I don't disagree with Mr. McNeil the same way. Like I say, I don't disagree that Mr. Marks and Mr. Kincannon actually, get their just due. And like I say, this is why I appreciate Mr. Johnson and Ms. Wilson over there, speaking up for Taylor and myself, yeah, but when I put it in perspective, yeah, I mean, we start talking the time span of this project, and I've been over it 75% of it, and yeah, it's kind of slap in the face if you don't see your name somewhere. So I mean, I'm good with whatever proposal that whoever want to come up with. I mean, another plaque that whatever will come up with, but yeah, from a standpoint when I'm looking at it, I'm hearing it a little bit different. Yeah, it's kind of slap in the face to be involved if you're gonna be at the ribbon cutting and everything else with no names in the building.
Okay, is that something we need to vote on, or just say, direct Mr. Adolphus? What do you?
Well, my thing, I'd rather have one plaque. If I don't want two plaques. You're gonna have probably the same cost. If the plaque costs $2,000 to replace, it's just gonna cost $2,000 to buy an extra plaque.
That's gonna be pretty
So I'd
close.
rather see a nice design, including those members, who stuck their neck out for the project and, really were, champions for getting this done. No disrespect to either two of those, but I feel horrible that, you two aren't listed also. So I think there's a compromise there.
Could we put, because they were long-standing board members, could we put their term of service, like in parenthetical or something?
Yeah, we could. I've never dealt with this before, ever. And like I said, we've done lots of projects. And I'm missing, I guess, what it is with creating a plaque with this board who closed the project and the board who opened the project that would be equally standing there with information on it. I'm just very confused about that, guys, because everybody is going to be represented. Everybody is going to be recognized. And this didn't begin tonight. This began for us months ago on how we're going to create the next plaque to make sure that Mr. McNeil and Mr. Irving were going to be recognized as part of this grand opening. So that I'm confused by it. Because there's nobody going to not get the credit for the work that they've done as it relates to this.
I've just never seen, I guess with the length of this project, I've only seen like one plaque in the hospital. When they do additions, there's a plaque that's not who was on the board when it's approved. It's typically at a ribbon cutting. Who's the current board?
It's not the practice that we've employed.
Right, and that's why I said the hospital, not the school district. So I'm just curious, I just think it's kind of redundant to have two board when you could have one plaque instead of two plaques across from each other. You know what I mean? That's just me.
Mr. Nelson, what's your, or do you put that in the form of a motion, or you just won't discuss it anymore?
Well,
I mean, it's only $2,000.
Well, and it's, it's either you buy, you're still going to buy a plaque.
Right.
Why not just have one plaque?
Well, it's going to be a lot more than if you extend the current plaque that we have, because it is going to be more than $2,000. That size plaque that we currently have now what was the cost on it?
A couple thousand. I mean, that's what I think.
It is $1,800.
I mean, the simple way to do it, you have enough width, I think, because everything's centered. And so you could just shift that board to the left, literally just have two columns, for that particular section. This board here, this board here.
So you don't
What do I
change
say
the
on the
length.
headers? Do I do dates? That's something to work through. But that'd be a clean, simple way to do it, I think. And so the overall size would not change. You just have enough width to probably fit all the names in there and make that work. So I think it would look good.
so the way you're talking about it, be kind of doing the same thing, but all on the one plaque, having two listed boards on a single plaque.
That's right. Yeah. Now, how to do the header and the dates, that gets a little, because you'll roll off at different years, so we have to figure that out.
That's why you
That
make
could
the
be-
big bucks.
Yeah, that can be figured out. So,
So from the other end of the table, are there any objections there to having a single plaque with two listed boards on it?
I don't have any objections.
Speak up, because it's fixing to be motion.
No objection.
I don't have any objections.
So moved.
I'm trying to even envision. I hadn't saw the plaque even in there yet. So.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, what did you say your motion to your motion to approve? Tell me what your motion is.
Is that
To list both boards.
we want to list both boards on a single plaque side by side in lieu of two plaques.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Johnson to list both boards on a single plaque.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Wilson. Any discussion on the item?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are we going to have board president listed as board president on the initial one, which is an accurate record, and then board president on the second one, and board secretary and board secretary?
I think that
So it's an
I would
accurate
think so.
historical-
I would think so. In other words, if you're gonna list both boards, list them as they were at that, at that time.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to do it.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion on the
I'm
item?
thinking,
What date are you gonna use?
yeah,
for
what
the
date are we
second
gonna
one?
use?
Oh,
Do
well,
we want to use
the
it
substantial
with Sunny? Yeah, or substantial
would-
completion, because March changes.
Yeah,
So,
I think we'll be substantially complete sometime in February. It's got 3 boards.
so let's just, can we all just agree to list Sunny as the board president for the current board?
February, it would-
and
Yeah.
then Mike and Cannon as.
So there's no
board
gray
president.
area
No,
there.
Yeah, no vote right now, so
Yes.
that's what we're looking at.
Yes, that's the way I would do.
Well, we would want to list Mike as the board president at the time.
That we
The contract award, we'll say whatever.
Wow.
See, we're not changing what's currently there, we're just gonna shift it over, and then this y'all as y'all currently are.
Okay.
At least we haven't got that serious.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, any other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Brian can probably have y'all a sketch and Friday update when Mr. Doctor sends it out from the,
Yeah, we'll try.
And we have to make sure it's correct.
be sure it looks
All the
better.
spelling is correct.
Okay, we need a approval to close the meeting to determine executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Wilson to determine executive session. Second by Mr. Irving. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay.